You got in a book club kind of mood?
Yeah, book club kind of mood. Cheers.
Second. Cheers. Saturday night.
Book club light.
Hanging out on the couch, talking about books. I haven't really been putting out that many videos because I've been busy.
Yes.
And so we figured we'd talk about some of the books that we've read recently or have been reading. And so I think we're going to start with you.
Okay, well, I haven't been reading too much recently. I've mostly just been reading The House of Seven Gables. It's interesting. So there's definitely like a nice kind of portrait of like New England life. There's some kind of spooky elements and some supernatural elements which are nice. What's interesting is I've actually visited the House of Seven Gables twice, yet I haven't read the book before until now. So the first time I visited, I was at a summer camp, and then the two of us actually went in the dead of winter. It was super snowy, so
it was the worst winter in 100 years.
Maybe you have some pictures from that you could share.
I think I've actually talked about it on the spooky books video.
I see, okay.
Yeah, that nobody watched. But yeah, there's a picture of it in there. Maybe I'll put one in here.
We went to go visit the House of Seven Gables that time, except for we couldn't go inside because the pipes had burst because it was so cold, and all the art historians and all the curators and all that were busy getting all the artwork and stuff like that off the walls to preserve it. Another cool thing to go see in Salem is all the old graveyards where some famous people are buried, but also people from the witches' trials.
Yeah, if you've read The Crucible, they have, well, The Crucible's not 100% accurate. It's a dramatization of what happened, but if you go there are graves of people who are, I think, mentioned. So obviously Nathaniel Hawthorne worked up the street, basically, or a block from the House of Seven Gables. Do you think the house in the book is accurately based on the one in real life? In the book, it sort of seems like the house is in the middle of the town when it's really kind of on the water.
It's definitely walking distance from the center of town. And then I think the whole description of the house obviously makes sense. So that was, I feel like most people probably read the book and then go visit, but I've visited and then read the book.
So, anyways, I've read a couple books recently myself. One of the things I've been reading is this swimsuit catalog.
So this is a family channel.
Alright, the first novel that I finished this year is Rob Roy by Walter Scott. When I was a kid, I was familiarized with the story of Ivanhoe, and I really liked that. I really enjoyed Kidnapped by Robert Louis Stevenson, which is very similar to this one because they're both about adventures of two guys in Scotland. So it's kind of like a buddy kind of thing. We actually met in Edinburgh, which is where the Walter Scott Monument is, which is the second largest monument to an author in the world.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's that big tower down there.
Yeah.
I think it was the same day that Stephen and Jeff and I went to Edinburgh Castle. Earlier we had gone to the Elephant Cafe, which is where Rowling supposedly came up with the idea of Harry Potter, or wrote the first Harry Potter book, and supposedly behind the cafe was the graveyard where she got ideas for names for characters. And then if you're in the back of the cafe, you can see Edinburgh Castle. But the Walter Scott Memorial is kind of on the other side. The book itself came out in 1817, so a little over 200 years ago. I would really recommend it for people who are into adventure. When I read it, I was expecting more adventure right away, but really the first half of the book is really intrigue, not so much adventure. And the other book that I just recently finished is Stoner by John Williams, which of course has gained fame in recent years, at least certainly since the author's death, though it wasn't unknown at his time. I thought it was a very poignant novel. It was very well written. Obviously, it's very straightforward, but carried a lot of emotion to it, and in a lot of ways was a very depressing book. But I actually really liked it partially, well, not just because I thought it was very well written, but because I grew up sort of close to where the book takes place in Missouri. My family still lives there, so I liked that a lot. I thought it was a pretty interesting book, and I would recommend it. I might consider doing an actual video about it, but I figure a whole bunch of people have already done videos about it. I really enjoyed it. I think I'm guessing probably a lot of the people who watch the channel have probably read this book because it's actually kind of popularized now. But a sign off kind of thing.
Sure.
Like what should we say? We show them the blue Moby Dick. I almost want to do an art tour of the apartment. Just for like weird stuff like
yeah, we do all weird stuff.
Blue Moby Dick. So
we have this whale that my mom got us just for no reason at all because she saw it and she thought we would like it. And so I put it on the shelf with a bunch of our Herman Melville books, thinking like, oh, it's a whale like Moby Dick, but it's not. It's not the right color. And
Well,
so,
it is a whale like Moby Dick
Yes.
because he is a sperm whale, but this one, is this wood?
it is wood.
He's blue, and obviously Moby Dick is famous for being
White.
not
yes.
blue. Yes. Anyways, I still like it. I think we should paint him white though.
No, I don't think we should ban
One of
white.
these
It
days-
doesn't have to be Moby
One
Dick.
of
It's
these
just a
days-
whale. It's just a whale.
Just a regular dick, not Moby Dick.
It's just a
One
regular
of these
dick.
days, one of these days, you're gonna come back and he's gonna be white.
No.
All right, I think we're good. All right, we'll see you next time.
See ya.